Hi, CBJ family. Welcome to another edition of Journaling the Journey. We are going to be covering Matthew in this particular video. And so we start with who wrote the book. It's fairly undisputed that Matthew was the author of this gospel. There was a Christian as early as AD 140 named Papias who wrote that Matthew had compiled the sayings of the Lord in Hebrew, presumably before Matthew translated them into Greek for a much larger audience. And so Matthew's name appears in all of the biblical lists of the 12 apostles through Mark and Luke, even though they actually refer to him as Levi. His history as a tax collector distinguished him from all the other apostles, so it's pretty easy to identify him. On the timeline of history, where are we? Matthew is by far the most Jewish centric of all four Gospels. He regularly brought into the text the writings of the Old Testament prophets, specifically in an effort to prove and to illustrate to the Jews that Jesus' identity was absolutely Israel's long-awaited Messiah. Why is Matthew so important? Matthew, a Jew himself, offers as I said before, a very Jewish perspective on the ministry of Jesus. He includes more than 50 direct quotes and citations from the Old Testament, and this exceeds any of the other Gospels and indicates that essentially Matthew had a Jewish population in mind when he sat down to write this. And I think that that's really important. His extensive connections between Jesus and the Old Testament essentially provide, this prophetic evidence for Jesus's ministry, but it also gives contemporary readers a glimpse into how first century readers would approach the Old Testament with a Christ-centered mindset. So it's actually very valuable in that sense. The big idea from Matthew, Matthew wrote his account of Jesus's ministry essentially to show that Jesus was and is indeed the King of Israel. Israel's long-awaited Messiah. And he reflected this concern in his opening line, the record and genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And essentially from there, consistently takes his readers back to the Old Testament, providing testimony from the Old Testament directly regarding the birth of Jesus, Bethlehem as a location, the flight to Egypt, Herod's slaughter of the innocents, and then into the very beginning of Jesus's ministry. And so that's a really big idea, I would say. So how do we apply the book of Matthew as we study it out during this week? You have to remember they endured 400 years of prophetic silence, and God's people had to have been wondering whether or not God had deserted them. So after centuries of regular communication with God, everything went dark, and they found themselves without a genuine prophet or a spokesman for God. But the ministries of John and Jesus reminded God's people that he absolutely had not forgotten them. His silence during that period was merely a precursor to pulling the proverbial linchpin of his redemptive plan. God hadn't forgotten. He remembered his people all the way through. And Matthew makes that very, very clear. And just as it was true then, it's true today. So if you find yourself feeling as though God has deserted you, you've fallen into this crack somewhere, and been forgotten, that He sits in silence in the face of your request, that is absolutely not true. I know it feels true when we're going through it, but that is not how God operates, not with His people. And as we read through the pages of Matthew, not only do we see Jesus Christ revealed as Israel's King and Messiah, but His coming to earth as God in the flesh reminds us of His deep, deep love for each and every one of us. Now resurrected and ascended, the Lord always will be with us, even to the end of time. And you see that at the very end of Matthew, in Matthew 28:18 through 20. So Christ's commission to His followers is still a mandate for us today, to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And Christ's work of building His church is the work He does through each and every one of us. And so that should tell us, if we still have air in our lungs, this commission is still on us. This command with a mission. God has a plan for you. And so I think that's just an amazing reminder as you close up the book of Matthew, that God's not forgotten us. As a matter of fact, He does one better, and He makes us a part of this redemptive plan, which is a really beautiful thing. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful week.